you can't make a decision to be wealthy and another decision to live in mediocrity at the same time.
Yeah.
That's two different decisions. We live in a black and white world, not a gray world. A lot of my books weave a lot of that stuff into it. My first book was Rings of Truth, which is my personal story. And I would say this without any doubt, not because it's my book, but it'll be the best book that anyone ever reads that to get their life in order and empower their life. Best that you will not escape that book. It's powerful. And it happened between me and somebody I hired to help me write it because it's a story. And it was my first book and I didn't know how to write. Heck, I'm a 10th grade dropout. And it's written on a 10th grade level too, so it's easy to understand. But that's a great book, Rings of Truth. And now I'm working on a series with Kevin Harrington from the TV show Shark Tank.
Okay.
Most people know that. Even I think you have a version of Shark Tank in the UK called
Dragon's Den.
Dragon's Dungeon or something like that. Dragon's Den. But there's a version in like 90 countries of Shark Tank. So Kevin was on the first 189 episodes, one of the originals. So anyway, he and I have been friends a long time, and we have a book series that we're doing for coaches, speakers, entrepreneurs, and it's called Cracking the Rich Code. And it's got 20 co-authors in each book. And plus Kevin and I have a chapter. It's endorsed by Tony Robbins. The whole series is. We do a different front cover for each of our co-authors within the book, where they've got a picture of myself, a picture of Kevin, a picture of Tony Robbins, and their picture right in the center of their cover. So they're branded on the cover of that book. And it's just a fascinating book series. They're all #1 international bestsellers. The first 4 have been, 5 we're just getting ready to do our campaign on, and 6 we're filling up right now. But yeah, if anybody watching here would like to know more about that, I'd be happy to get a video or something over to you to take a look at to kind of fill you in on what we're doing there. But it's a fascinating project that we're doing.
Absolutely, and we can embed the link within the video and put it at the bottom as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you've mentioned, cracking the rich code, and I mean, I was reading online doing the prep for today about this, and it seems that cracking the rich code is very much about changing your psychological dialogue with money, stopping your inhibiting thoughts about money to be able to go on. And, that seems very, very similar to the most recent books that you've spoken about. I realize they're about different things, but essentially it is about changing that psychological dialogue. And I mean, would you call that, I mean, traditionally that would probably be called reframing. Well, in NLP, sort of reframing, would that be sort of accurate to describe it as that?
Yeah, there's two, to clarify, there's a Cracking the Rich Code book series that Kevin and I are doing with 20 co-authors in each book. And I have a Cracking the Rich Code 4-month online program that's kind of an online coaching program that it's designed to give you daily, weekly, monthly input. And what it's designed to do is change your subconscious and change your relationship to money. And 95% of the people in this world live based upon paycheck to paycheck. I mean, they live based upon what they earn. And then they get a raise and they earn a little more and they go, oh, now I can afford that other car that's going to cost me $100 a month more, or I can get a bigger home, or I can buy this furniture or whatever. So we kind of live within our means, but barely, and a lot of debt a lot of times. Well, that's that person's relationship with money. But then you turn that around and you look over, at, I don't know what Kevin's worth, but you look online, I think it says something like 500 million, so he's got a different relationship with money. Tony Robbins is now, I believe, a billionaire. He's got a different relationship with money, so everybody's got a different relationship. And And the reality is there's plenty of money to go around. You can have all you want. It's just changing your relationship with it. So you see more coming in based on your relationship, because when you change that, your consciousness changes. And when that changes, your view of the world changes. And when the view of the world changes, you see opportunities you would never have seen before. And the view that the world has of you changes. And they see you differently. Now they want to support you in your endeavor to earn more money. So it's a real win-win. So anyway, that's what that program is all about online. And that's at crackingtherichcode.com is that program.
And I mean, what you've spoken about a lot, you haven't explicitly mentioned it, but it almost feels like growth mindset. You know, the Carol Dweck kind of research. You know, about because I know in another one of your books you speak about saying yes. You know, it is about changing that word from saying no to saying yes, and open yourself to opportunities, and you know, really taking those chances and those opportunities, which is very, very much a growth mindset methodology. And that obviously came along after the books that you're talking about that you've written. So I guess, you know, when thinking about all of the stuff that you teach, Jim, and you know, really getting people to take that leap and take some positive risk and stuff like that, how important is it for people to sort of embrace failure and say yes to things and try new things and really push themselves beyond their comfort zone?
Well, it's very important. And when you really look at it, I've associated myself with a lot of wealthy people, a lot of top entrepreneurs, people that earn a lot of money. And I've done very well myself. There's about a half a dozen things required to make really significant changes in your life, whether it be financially or otherwise. And they're not complicated things. They're things that we do in part, off and on. There's things that we probably have done all of them in certain areas of our lives. You know, well, I'll just give you those real quickly. First step is, if you want change in your life, you have to desire change. You know, I mean, there's people that would just rather sit in front of the TV and take the remote, a bag of potato chips, and complain about what they don't have and complacently live out their lives. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want. But it's not what you want. Everything's wrong with it. But you got to have a desire to change. That's number one. You know, if you're 50 pounds overweight, you got to have a desire to be a thin person. If you want to lose that weight, you got to have that. But coupled with that, because I would say you probably take anybody on any street corner in anywhere in the world and say, would you like to make more money? Do you have a desire to make more money? And I'll bet you get a yes pretty much every time. But how many really do? 95% don't. So you got to take it to the next step. And the next step above desire is you have to make a decision. If you want to be wealthy, see, when I go back to when I was at that meeting that night, I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be successful at it. I'm going to get wealthy doing this. I didn't even know what wealth meant at the time. I mean, millionaire, that was the furthest thing from my mind. Probably wealthy would be 5,000 a month back then, would have been over the top, because you could buy a new car for $4,000, you know, so that would have been a lot of money. So you've got to make a decision. If you want to be a wealthy person, for example, you've got to make a decision to be wealthy, even if you don't know how to do it. Because as I said, once the decision is made, opportunities show up. If this is a decision, this circle is a decision. Here's what most people do with their decisions. They leave a little opening at the top, and that's the escape route. That's their excuse. Well, you know, I couldn't make sales calls today because it was raining. Well, seemed to me everybody's still in their office, probably a great time to make sales calls. But, we use excuses. But until you close that gap, nothing happens because your mind is confused. Your subconscious is confused about what to bring to you to support you. You're confused about what to do because you're letting all this stuff in that doesn't belong. So you got to make a decision, because the decision creates the mindset. The mindset determines how you show up and what shows up for you and how those people show up to support you or circumstances. So that's so critical. You can't make a decision to be wealthy and another decision to live in mediocrity at the same time.
Yeah.
That's two different decisions. We live in a black and white world, not a gray world. You can't make a decision to be a thin, healthy person and stop at a fast food place every day and have a hamburger. You just can't do that, because that's two different decisions. That's not a healthy person. Does it hurt you to eat a hamburger once in a while? Well, yes and no. If you do it every day, it's going to hurt you a lot. If you do it once a month, it only hurts you a little bit, but it still hurts you. Now, it may not show up, but, I'm a healthy person, and I do things to stay healthy. That's number one in my life, is to be healthy, because without that, you got nothing. But do I have a hamburger or a pizza now and then? Yeah, I do. But I don't do it every day. And even when I do it, I'm going, that wasn't really feeding my health, but it sure tasted good at the time. So that's number two, is you got to be so firm with what you're going to do that nothing less than that will do.